Marquise,
Yeah.
those boys were indeed in the hood. I guess.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Austin, you want to see a dead body?
Do you have one?
Yeah, it's in the corner.
Okay. What happened? I haven't seen your little brother in a while, Marquise.
Okay, all right.
This is episode 20 of I Finally Saw, where today I finally saw Boyz N The Hood. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the second installment in our Black History Month series. This is movies that I was helped curate by, I think Marquise helped curate both of the movies on this, didn't you? I remember having a conversation.
I advocated for Boyz N The Hood, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess as you heard, I am joined once again by Marquise.
Hi, what's up, y'all?
I am joined once again by Deon.
What's going on? What's going on, y'all? Glad to be on the pod again.
And I am joined again wonderfully by Tre.
Hi, everybody.
Our 20th episode now, which is surreal to think about. And
hey, congrats.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll just go ahead and jump kind of straight into it, just introducing this movie, as I always do, with a paragraph that I have taken from Wikipedia, because I am too lazy to write anything myself. Tre is sent to live with his father, Furious Styles, in tough South Central Los Angeles, and although his hard-nosed father instills proper values and respect in him, and his devout girlfriend Brandy teaches him about faith, his friends Doughboy and Ricky don't have the same kind of support and are drawn into the neighborhood's booming drugs and gang culture, with increasingly tragic results.
This is Los Angeles, gang capital of the nation.
It just goes on and on, you know. Either they don't know, don't show, don't care about what's going on in the hood.
I watched this movie when I was young, like inappropriately young.
Yeah.
But that was because it was just like my parents watched it. So
Yeah.
I've always liked the movie. I really like the movie because my name's Tre. There's a Tre spelled just the same exact way. So I was like, cool. And I just like, also fun fact, I'm a big fan of Ice Cube acting. His acting. So that was like my introduction to him as an actor, because my father had listened to excuse me, my mother and my father both had like some of his albums when he was in NWA. So
Tre loves War of the Worlds.
Okay. I wasn't going to bring it up, but yes, I still need
Masterclass film right there.
Get away from that! Get out of there!
Well, Marquise, what about you? You helped curate this movie, so I'm curious.
Yeah,
what your history with it is.
No, I mean, I just like grew up watching it. It's like definitely like a hood classic for sure. So yeah, I grew up with this movie. I've enjoyed it. I think the message is really nice. And it's just it's an overall great movie about like just the experience in quote unquote the hood for sure. And yeah,
I was experienced this film sort of just like Do the Right Thing in my teenage years, like reruns on TV. I was also, still am, like love Ice Cube, Death Certificate. I remember stealing that CD from my uncle, borrowing that CD from my uncle. Still have it somewhere in the attic somewhere. But Boyz N The Hood, like on BET reruns, watching bits and pieces of it throughout the years, and it was really cool to revisit it again, especially with new lens as a filmmaker.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is one of those movies that is just like constantly, I think, referenced or brought up in conversation. And it's one of those movies that it's like a source movie, I guess is how I would put it, where it's like you watch it and it's like, oh, like I think sometimes as like a kid, I remember I would see things referenced and I would recognize it as like a trope or a reference to a thing, but I never knew what like the original thing of that was. And so this was like one of those movies where I was like, Oh, that's where that comes from. That's where, like, that bit of, like, the one guy that has the promising future is struck down. Not to get ahead of myself, but I was like, yeah, like that. So that was interesting for me. Is like, oh, like that's where these. I mean, I don't know if tropes is the right word, but these sorts of like just elements that are referenced a lot, I think culturally, kind of come from, which I think was interesting for me.
I'd say they're tropes. They innovated, made some new tropes.
One of my favorite things about this movie is that, again, there's no like real true like similar to Do the Right Thing. There's no like real true like plot progression. It's more of just experiencing the life of this boy that lives in South Central, like LA, right? And that's where the movie takes place, right? Like South Central, yeah, South Central LA, and it's kind of just like his experiences going out through life with where like tension doesn't really build up until like the third act of the movie, for real. And that's where, like, again, like you said, like this combination of things happen. Honestly, I think this movie is just very powerful about black people trying to embetter themselves and kind of like escape this this cycle of violence almost. And then like one of my favorite parts of like seeing in this movie is when with Furious is like giving a lecture about the gentrification, like America, or maybe not even like necessarily America, but like how the government or, you know, just oppressors are keeping black people oppressed by building gun stores in every corner, by building these liquor stores on every corner. And that is only helping the cycle of violence. It's stopping black people from ever amassing to something. And it's kind of just powerful in that way. And like how the movie ends, and it's like how it's like just like this cautionary tale, like, hey, if like you don't like try to do something to embetter yourself, you're just gonna keep within this cycle.
Oh my gosh, that movie is so good because I related so much to it. Now, mind you, I didn't grow up in the hood, but I grew up with people who did grow up in the hood, who grew up in the projects. Yeah. And we grew up the same. We went to the same schools. Our families knew each other. And our lives are completely different, you know? And it makes me almost kind of like a sense of survivor's remorse that I got out. Yeah. And he did not. My friend is deceased. And it kind of sticks with me. Like if I had stuck around longer, maybe, just maybe, he would still be here to tell his story. But I think that movie it's about survival. It's not about survival of the fittest, but it's about survival of your circumstances. Because when our mom and dads are getting it on 9 months before we are brought into this world, we don't sit there and say, I want to be born in a rich family. I want to be born in a poor family. I want to be born in the hood. I want to be born in the ghetto. I want to be born in the Beverly Hills or the upper echelon of the upper echelon. Or I want to be born in an oppressed community. No, you are just born and you are dealt with the cards you are given. And this movie talks about how two boys who literally grew up together are so drastically different. But yet at their core, they are still the same 10-year-old boys scared for their lives. And I think that's what the movie's about. You could have, and I even look at it now, it's not even about if you grew up in the same community or the same street. It even happens with siblings. You grew up in the same house and you turn out so drastically different. Yeah. So it's a commentary on, like you said, Marquise, of like how when Fierce is giving that speech about gentrification, but they're building all the liquor stores, all the gun stores, all the ABC stores, all the Planned Parenthoods, all these da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-das. Yeah. It's because we can, as black people, we can only go as far as the limit is going. So if this is the limit, we're only allowed to be this close to it. And if we start getting closer, they have to move the goalpost. And it talked about it so dramatically because in the 90s, gentrification was running rampant. And now it's no longer called gentrification. It's called private equity. So when you see our beloved restaurants like McDonald's, where it was like the fun house and it's like the roof was red and it looked like the lights were fries, and now it looks like a gray box.
Yeah.
Because it's like gentrifying an area based off of profit. It's not about sustainability. It's about profit. How much money can we squeeze out of you and then throw you away once you can't give us anything anymore? So that movie, as an adult, oh my God, I was crying because all I could think about was my childhood and my friend who, God bless him, is no longer with us. And we grew up literally down the street from each other. So, but that's just my take. Sorry. Sorry. See, I make everything so depressing. I'm so sorry.
It's good insight.
It's moving.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In South Central LA,
Yo, Benito, let's do the local thing.
it's tough to beat the streets.
I think that's the aspect of it that is the hook, was it showcased that reality of living in these circumstances. And you guys broke it down so eloquently. Your birth can imprison you or it can liberate you, depending on your circumstances. And unfortunately for these young men, they're in South Central LA in the early 90s, late 80s, which is notoriously known for being one of like really bad, worst times there. And I think the message, Lawrence Fishburne did a great job as Furious. He was like the anchor for the message, the powerful message of the film, and he anchored that film, in my opinion, on Lawrence Fishburne. And I think even John Singleton mentioned in one of his behind-the-scene videos that he really relied on him to sort of showcase how to even talk to actors, like you centered the script, so to speak. So it's a classic. It's a classic, man. And I think after it was made, I might be going a little bit further on, but like after the message of the film got lost in translation for box office returns, because then it no longer was about the endless cycle of violence and stop the violence. It was no longer about hitting that limit, like Trey said, and the goalposts being moved. It was just about guns, sex, drugs, and violence.
Yeah.
For the stylistic approach of it, and then it just became you're just doing it for style. You're not doing it for substance.
A lot of movies recreated what Deon said of like, let's talk about the sex, drug, the violence, the gangs, the murder. Let's talk about all of that, the oppression, but let's glorify it. While Boyz N The Hood said, hey, these are the cards that this community has been dealt with. Mm-hmm. But you see people go to work. You see people raise their kids, and you see people make mistakes and they make progress. And I feel like what Deon said, like the box office glorified this movie. Because when I watched it, I thought, in my perception, I always thought it was going to be like, we watching two gangs going to go at it, like two friends who are now on opposite gangs. And then the whole time it's like, as a child, you're like, that's not what it was. And then as an adult, you're like, holy crap, a lot of people misunderstood this movie and still do. Yeah. Because nowadays, oh my God, I sound like my father. Holy shit. Oh my God. I just sounded like my dad. Nowadays, it's like, all you want to talk about is drugs, sex, rock and roll. But what happened to community and friendship? Mm-hmm. And I think that gets lost in translation because nowadays we have glorified it. Because when rappers are talking about, I slept my bitch and my hoe and my bitch. And now you got people who are like, I just want to talk about friendship and cats. That gets lost because nobody wants to do that. So, and I'm not a cat person, so that's
Man, I think just goes to show how important having an actual message and voice in your movie is, as opposed to just hitting like stuff for box office, stuff for views, like stuff for clicks. You know what I mean? So so it's unfortunate that like this movie became so popular for the wrong reasons, and it led a trend for others to do things again for the wrong reasons. But that shouldn't take away from, again, like how powerful the message is and like how moving the story is. And I don't know. I'm very fortunate to not have grown up in the same circumstances, but it really opens your eyes to just like, this is the reality for like many people, like like people in the US, and it's just like sad to think about.
A lot of people nowadays, they don't live, they exist.
Yeah.
And that's what it talked about.
Yeah.
You're not living, you're existing.
What am I supposed to do? Fool roll up, try to smoke me? I'm gonna shoot the motherfucker.
You have to think, young brother, about your future.
I think the center of it, I mean, obviously we have our main character, Tre, and I think he's a character that is caught, I feel like, between two worlds that are sort of exemplified by the two boys next door that are his closest friends. We have, like, Doughboy, especially, like, to like, Furious's mind is probably, like, the example of what he is scared of his son becoming in a sort of way.
Yeah.
And then you have Ricky, who is like the golden boy, and like on paper sort of like has everything together, but I think is also like exemplary of like the dangers of like, I think like I have seen in families as well, where it's like, I think a lot of sort of families will, like, when they find what they think could be their golden goose of their kids, they pin everything on that kid. And that creates insane social pressures, not just on them, but on other family. I mean, we talk about, like, there's a saying that, like, siblings don't have the same parents. Like, when, like, your parents are in a different stage of life sometimes when you're born, and what they've learned and what they exemplify, and even in like, even things about, like, whether, like, you're an eldest daughter or a youngest daughter, like, those dynamics matter. How that, like, is exemplified, I think, with sort of these three boys that I think are, like, the crux of that whole story. Again, the thing that always stands out to me is the way it humanizes everybody, even the people that aren't engaging in behavior that is, like, moral or what the heck, like, because it's not beneficial to be like, just because this is bad or, like, unproductive, to still treat those people with scorn. I mean, we see that exemplified, I think, most of all by, and I wish I could remember who played him. There's a black cop in this movie, and he, like, loves being a police officer, and it's like, there's like a vindictiveness dealing with his brethren, and it's right. Like, it's like someone who is internalized and is almost like proud of being, quote unquote, one of the good ones. Like, he's like, yeah, like, I pulled myself out of there or something, and that to me is, like, again, just harrowing, because it's just like, you've, like, that's the stuff that gets to me, because it's like, you of all people should be empathetic. Are
you talking about Officer Coffee? He's Jesse Lawrence Ferguson, who was really excited about being the police officer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Boyz N The Hood is a much more emotional story than Do the Right Thing, because you do grow up with these boys in the short amount of time. And I think for me, watching this movie as an adult, you see that Reva is trying her best. You see that Furious is trying her best to raise Tre to be better than the circumstances that were given to him. But I think I know I can speak for me. When I was growing up, I never thought I would leave my hometown, because we were always told, this is it. This is it. Not by my parents, no, but by, like, people who were, like, teachers, principals, guidance counselors, you name it. Like, I was told I wasn't going to live to be past 16 by my 4th grade teacher. I was going to be selling drugs. I was going to have all these different baby mamas. Plot twist, gay. So, so you have all this different things, but I related to a lot of it because you can see Tre, he's ready to go to college. He is smart, but I think he has doubted himself because the system has created a sense of doubt and fear. But I think also with Tre, he has a sense of responsibility to Ricky and Doughboy to stay, because I feel like if they were all brothers, Ricky would be the oldest, Doughboy would be the middle child, and Tre would be the baby. And I feel like all of them hold each other to different expectations of, I'm here for you, I'm here for you. And I think with Tre, given the opportunity to leave, I don't think if he was given a golden ticket to say, you can leave, pack your bags, and wherever you want to go in the world, you'll go. We'll pay for everything. He would take it because I don't think he would take it because he's in his heart, he wouldn't feel right leaving Ricky and Doughboy behind because he feels like he has to take care of them because of their situations, especially Doughboy, the situation that he is now stuck in. And it's a movie of feeling stuck, that you can't escape the situation no matter how much money you have, no matter how much education you have. Because of the color of your skin, you will always be stuck in the situation. You will always be stuck in the slums of the hood. And I know some people who will never leave the hood and they're okay with that. And I know there's some people who are like, I want to leave the hood. I don't know how. And there's some people who work so hard till they'll never ever go back to the hood. And that's always is prevalent in the film. Like Tre's like, I'm never going back. You can't make me. But I'm scared if I stay, I'm going to resent my friends because I stayed for them. And that's what I took away from the movie is Tre holds a lot of responsibility, not for himself and Brandy, but for Ricky, Doughboy, his mom, his dad, and for everybody he's ever interacted with. Because he's like, if I can make it out, they should be able to come with me. We all can get out.
I don't know. It's like kind of like my mom's story, like making it out, because we lived in the Caribbean, which isn't like, not like South Central, that's for sure, but it's very impoverished, and like it's not a great place to grow up for sure. And so like she like kind of sheltered me from like all like the, I guess, wow, I don't know like the correct word for it, but just like poverty, I guess. Like, and I never like really, we were definitely poor, but like, I never realized it when I was growing up for sure. You said, yeah, I never felt it, right? And so like, but she made things work, and then like we moved out of there when I was 8, and I've lived a pretty nice, I can't complain, life since then. And it's just like really like it is possible to make it out. You have to find that route yourself, right? Like the world's not going to help you do that, you know what I mean? And that's like, it's kind of a lesson I feel like Tre like has to learn. Like he has to learn that like he has to grow up in the sense that like he cannot worry about everybody else as much as he wants to. It has to be a him thing, right? After Ricky dies at the end of the movie, sorry, spoiler alert. After Ricky dies, it's like Tre has to be the one. Like that's what I really appreciate about the movie, that like, because Tre goes back, he grabs the gun, he's like, I'm gonna go with Doughboy to kill the guys who killed Ricky, right? And his dad's like, no, like, give me the gun, you're not going, right? But then like he sneaks out and goes anyways, right? And I'm really glad Tre is the one that decides to get out of the car before they show up to kill the guys. And like he's the one that makes the decision. It's not his dad. It's Tre making that decision for himself. It's Tre deciding to end like that cycle of violence, right? And that's him like growing up in a sense and choosing to move on with his life, choosing to do better for himself, not just like as himself, but just as a black person, knowing that like if he goes to kill these guys, it's not going to end. Some like one of their friends are going to come back and try to kill them, and it's going to keep going back like an eye for an eye, right? And so I think it's really important that Tre makes that decision himself, right? And is able to go to Atlanta and go to college and like live a life with Brandy. And it's just like Doughboy doesn't make that same decision, and like after the ending of the movie, he dies 2 weeks later, according to the credit roll or whatever. And right. It's just like, that's the reality, so it is possible to make it out, but you have to make that conscious decision yourself and work for it.
Yo, I think it's really interesting that both films dealt with a father-son kind of dynamic, and having the son having to deal with their friends of like, do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Sal's son, oh, my friends are gonna make fun of me because we serve black people in the ghetto. And in Boyz N The Hood, basically Tre, his mom's like, do you want to live with me? Like, he had the golden ticket to leave, but he didn't want to take it because his friends still live there. He didn't want to abandon them. What are my friends are going to think? I love it was more of a positive relationship, but still both films had person being held back by their friendship and by others.
I look at it too, for example, like, not to get personal, but
Yeah.
I'm a very open book. You guys can ask me anything. I'll tell you straight up. I swear to God. You'll ask me what my bank account number is, like, like, that's my problem. But for me, when I went off to college, that was my ticket out, because I felt stuck. And this is right after the pandemic. So I really felt stuck. Like, there was no hope in what I wanted to do anymore. I just didn't want to be somebody driving a forklift for the rest of my life. And I was afraid to leave because I had my family, my friends, but my best friend was like, go. You look miserable. Like, you look sick. And my friend was saying, the reason I'm bringing this up is my friend was saying, I don't want you to resent us because you stayed to make sure we were getting our shit together, you know? And that's why he's like, go, go, go. And I think Tre wanted somebody to tell him to go. Mm-hmm. And I think he was waiting for that moment, whether it was right then and there or 12 years from now. He was waiting for somebody to give him permission, go live your life. And because that never came, I feel like the movie would be a whole lot different if Ricky had never passed. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like he would have stayed regardless. And I think Ricky's death motivated him. Okay, I got to get out of here because now it's too close to home. Mm-hmm. It's literally my next door neighbor. It's too close. Yeah. And I think that was the whole point. I'm not a religious person, but my dad always says, you know, sometimes the universe, God, whoever you believe in, will send you a message. Mm-hmm. And it's to wake you up. And I think in that moment, that moment where Ricky was killed in the drive-by, it was the universe, whoever, God, you need to go because you are next. And we grew up, me and Deon, I don't know but we were told bullets don't have names on it. Yeah. They fly where they fly.
They say that in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they fly where they fly. So it could be intended for Billy, but it ricochets and hits me. So it's one of those things where I think Tre had to have that aha moment of, you need to get out of here because you could be next.
Man, why you sweating me?
You're my only son, and I'm not gonna lose you to no bull.
Baby, don't worry about it. I can take care of myself.
To me, going back to something Marquis said that I thought was, he brought up the moment near the end of the movie where Tre makes a decision to get out of the car. And to me, that's a really beautiful bookend to an earlier moment in the movie that is kind of the setup for a lot of these characters' arcs, because there's a moment where Tre and Ricky and Doughboy, they all wander around and they go find the dead body and they're hanging out, and there's a moment where Tre is like, I can't hang around too long because I gotta go fishing with my dad. And near the end of that sequence, before it goes to that moment, that scene of Tre fishing with his dad, we hear Doughboy be like, well, I'm going to go to the store. When Tre gets back from fishing with his dad, we found out that Doughboy and one of his friends have been arrested and they were caught for stealing, and that starts his whole sort of life of being... I think it says that he's been in and out a little bit of the prison system ever since then, over those 7 years. And the thing that really stuck out to me is that, I mean, there's no guarantee for sure, but my sort of, like, stance on that scene is that, like, I mean, if Tre didn't have his dad, and he was just sort of in this situation, he might have tagged along to the store. He might have even stolen something, or maybe he didn't, but he still is sort of there, and so, like, just by the nature of being there. But he wasn't. He was, like, because his dad was like, we're gonna go do this thing, he didn't even have that choice, and so, like, that sort of pulled him out of that situation. But now that he's an adult, and this thing that, like, Furious is sort of drilling into his mom is, like, he's gotta make his own decisions. And now, like, when he's in that position and he has to finally decide for himself, it's a bookend. It's like, at first he was protected from the world, from that harsh reality because of his dad. But now he's got to make a decision on that harsh reality for himself. And it's this, like, parallel to where I think a lot of, like, paths started to diverge for those characters that I thought was really genuinely beautiful. For Tre and his sort of character arc.
I agree. I also think too it was a message to fathers at the time to step up, because there was a lot of deadbeats just running around. I mean, I hate to say, I think it's telling to a lot of fathers, like, you can't be making all these babies and not be there for them, because you don't know what could happen. And like you said, Austin, which was beautifully put, had Tre not gone fishing with Furious, what would his life have looked like when we meet him as a teenager about to go off to college? And I just think it's one of those situations where you have to be, there's a lot of introspective. There's a lot of like self-reflecting you have to do as an adult to watch this movie. As a kid, you're thinking, oh, it's about guns, violence, and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. But as an adult, you think of all the sacrifices Furious had to make in order to protect Tre. So in Tre as a child, as kids, we never understood why our parents do what they do. We were like, oh, I hate you because I can't go hang out with my friends. And the whole time they know your friend is a troublemaker, or they mom and daddy selling drugs, doing this, that, and the third. And they don't want you to get caught up in that lifestyle, because my mom used to say it all the time. One decision can change the course of your life. As we saw, it changed the course of Doughboy's life, of what he did when he was 10, 11 years old. So you have to, my friend who, God bless him, I will always say this too. He always said, I wish my father did this. I wish my father did that. I wish my father was around, because maybe I wouldn't be selling drugs, making all these kids, right? And I used to say to him, you got to take some accountability and ownership in that as well. Your dad is not telling you go make a baby with her and her and her and her. Your dad didn't tell you to go sell drugs. You chose that things. So you chose it, but yet you're blaming him for your actions. Granted, he's not in your life, but you are the active participant in selling drugs, making all these fatherless homes. And I think that the story is saying you got to take responsibility for your actions. You can't just blame everybody. You can't just blame the system. You have to own your part that you played. Granted, you didn't buy the gun, but you could have stayed your happy ass home. Or if you knew him and him got beef, why would you go to your way to be on his block? And that's how I interpreted the movie. Now, I could be loud and wrong, but that's okay. But I look at it like that. Sometimes we have to take accountability, and we have to sometimes put other people's burdens that they put on us down so we can live our own life. Because stunted growth is real.
I thought Doughboy was, I think, the most tragic character
oh my God.
in the story. Yeah. Being how Ricky was the golden child, and he could do no wrong. He had the potential. And Doughboy basically was like, well, I'm not going to be shit. I'm never going to be shit. But I'm going to at least protect my brother and at least try to protect my friends. The situation when Tre got out the car at the end, now most kind of like the gangster characters would be like, oh, you a mark, you a bitch, you got out the car, you ain't shit. But he was understanding of his friend, of what Tre did. And that speech in the end was like, maybe I'll get smoked, maybe not. We all got to go sometime. Like, just the calmness of like knowing that whatever happens. That coldness of like being really settled in the mud. Like, just like, what happens. It's going to happen. And being at peace with that, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of haunting. Just being at peace of just like, hey, it can end any second. I'm cool.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
Especially because the movie goes out of its way to confirm it does. It does happen. And only just 2 weeks later. And that's what really kind of cements it. And it's like, as irresponsible, perhaps, in certain regards, like Doughboy is, my heart goes out to him. Like the scene when he brings Ricky home, and immediately, like, they don't know, like, and I get it, like, she's panicking, she's lost a son, but it's just like the fact that, like, not even skipping a beat, she just immediately is like, she blames Doughboy, is like, this is your fault. I know it is. And it's like, she's obviously like hurt and in hysterics, and upset, but it's just like so trained and primed and ready to like be self-assured that like this is his fault, and it's just like
it's
you
tragic.
Yeah. When you lose that, it's just it's rough.
It's rough to be the child that your parents didn't want, and to know that they don't like, not parent, like, you know, your mom.
They don't like you. They don't like you. I've always believed in the philosophy, you can love someone, because loving someone can be unconditional, right? But liking someone is different. Like, you can love a distant aunt, right? But it doesn't mean you like her. You can love a distant cousin because their family doesn't mean you like them. And I think the hatred that Miss Baker had towards Doughboy is very prevalent. It's so prevalent in the Black community. It's so prevalent. And it's one of those things where it's like, in your heart of hearts, if you knew you couldn't take care of Ricky, you shouldn't have had other kids. Or you knew in your heart of hearts you couldn't financially take care of a child. Why? Why? And you have, it's a broken system, and the golden child, I always believe in this philosophy. The golden child always falls. Unfortunately, the golden child always falls, whether it's by their own doing or outside forces. They always fall, and you are left with the child who wanted your love and attention and wanted your support. And now you both are looking at each other going, I don't know you as my child. And the child's looking at you as the parent going, I only know you as somebody who didn't like me, who didn't tolerate me. Now you want me to be there for you and take care of you? Nigga, please. And I think that's where Doughboy's frustration was. Like, I lost my brother. I just lost my brother. Now my mom is blaming me for this when I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And that's what Deon said, that coldness, that recklessness, that affinity to just be reckless, and that lack of care is so dangerous. But when you have emotionally been stunted for so long, it does that to a person. And we're watching Doughboy finally, he's like, I don't have to protect Ricky anymore. He's gone. I have nothing else to lose. I live my life to protect him. He's gone. What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And it's almost like a suicide mission for Doughboy. I'm going to get even, because I think in his heart of hearts, he knew, I'm not going, if I go up there, I'm not going to survive this. It was a suicide mission. No one can tell me otherwise. It wasn't a suicide mission.
Right.
He was going up there, guns blazing, taking down anybody he could, knowing that he was going to go down in the process.
Man.
Tre wanted to work his way up.
Tre is a grown man now. He is not a little boy anymore.
Heard you like Mr. GQ Smooth now.
Maybe some of what you gotta rub off on it.
Something earlier, you brought up something about how you feel like this movie is very much also sort of advocating for present fatherhood. You made a point that echoes a sentiment that Lawrence Fishburne's character like states, where he's like, anybody can make a baby, but not everybody can be a father. There's that scene between Tre's parents in the diner that like expands on that. There is like, or there is like respect to be given for the people that have stepped up. But she makes this point that I think is also very powerful, where she's like, just because she says something to the effect of like, just because what you have done is an exception also doesn't mean that to some regards it is the bare minimum. Parenting isn't like a it's a responsibility. It's not a thing that should be like, I've gone out of my way to do this thing, and it's like, no, like, you owe it to this person. You have a sense of responsibility. And I think that's the thing that stands out to me. It's like, it's simultaneously like, hey, like, she's appreciative of what he's done, and she's like, you've put your best foot forward, but also, I mean, it reminds me of like a story where it's like, sometimes I'm surprised how far I'm able to get by giving out what I sometimes feel is like the bare minimum. I remember when I was first sort of hanging out with, we weren't dating at the time, but she's my girlfriend now, and we were having this conversation because we grew up, sort of in the Bible Belt. We grew up in an environment where I was like, I don't think young men and boys in where we were raised are taught to be held accountable for how they observe and perceive women. And like, they're like, everything these like young boys are taught, it's like, it's on young ladies, like how they dress. It's all, the onus is entirely on them, and there's no instruction. And to
boys
me,
will be boys.
Yeah, and to me, as I was saying that point, there was a part of me is like, I'm gonna sound so performant. Like, I was like, to me, it's like, it's such a like, well, duh, kind of a thing that I was like expecting, because it is. That's like, it is like that realization to me is almost like, that is the bare minimum. It's like, you're treating people with respect. And she was like, oh, like, you're the first like guy friend in my life who's ever expressed that sentiment to me. And I was like, that's really sad, because I've not said anything that's groundbreaking. I'm not like a revolutionist in feminist theory. I'm just like some guy who way too late in his life made an empathetic realization that like the people on the other side of that interaction have had to deal with and realize their entire life. And that to me is like, it reminds me of that experience in my own life, where it's just like, we do need people to step up, but also like, sometimes like we're so far behind in terms of needing to step up that there are some people that step up and think that they deserve praise for that. And like, no, I mean, like, we shouldn't strive to be this exception. We should strive to just do what's right.
Exactly.
Right. That's cool. Like, your circumstances didn't allow you to go. You think that was the status quo because of the culture, because of where you guys were living at? Kind of like in the film where they're in South Central. So being in South Central LA, of course, they're having all these culture problems and mannerisms. Like, do you feel like for you, like that was kind of like the film, like because where you guys were living at kind of formulated that culture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They say humans are creatures of habit. We observe what we see, and we do what we see. We monkey see, monkey do, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people don't understand that it takes two to do anything when it comes to life. It takes two. 1 + 1 in this case equals 3, unfortunately, because 1 + 1, you gotta, unless you have twins, then it's 4. But I think a lot of people don't understand that overall, no matter what your parents go through in their childhood, I always felt like they always try to do better for you, try to give you what they did not receive. And I think Furious so tough on Tre, like an iron grasp on him, is because his father probably was very laid back, or if he even had a father in his life, period, So I think that is what the message is saying is like, sometimes you got to own your shit. And it's not pretty, but at least you own it. And what really stood out to me was the scene where Tre's crying to Brandy. And you didn't see a lot of those growing up where you saw a black man cry. You did not see a lot of those where I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the scene after the gun is put in his face, or is that after Ricky's
Yeah, that's like right after he got pulled over by
cop.
a police officer, yeah.
The cop, okay. And that is so scary, because I know for me, my dad always said, I don't care what the cop does or says, make it home. Make it home. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Just get home. Just get home. And I've been pulled over before by a cop. And I swear to God, I was shaking for hours after that, because this was right after George Floyd was murdered. I'll never forget. And I was shaking because it's just like, I just want to come home to my parents. I just want to go home to my parents. I just want to go home to my parents. And the cop, thank God, she was very like friendly. But I remember thinking, just go home, go home, go home, get home, get home, get home. And I related to that moment because in the movie, not a movie, but in society, a lot of Black men are not allowed to show vulnerability, tears, because you got to be masculine. You got to be masculine. You got to be, oh, I'm tough, nigga, I'm from the hood. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, no, we can cry. We can be scared. We can love. We can like this. We can like that. We can do this. We can do that. And I think that was a conversation that a lot of people missed in the original run of the movie was Black masculinity, because I forgot who said, sorry, y'all. I study African American history, so I'm very like I pull it from everywhere. But I forgot who said it. She was a professor, but she says Black men had to grow up quick because they were not seen as boys; they were seen as men. Black girls had to try to slow down had to either grow up, depending on the circumstance, or had to slow down their growing or maturity because they were already seen as a woman. You're developing. Oh, you're fast. You're grown. You're a whore. You're a hoe. You're a slut, right? So it was like we're never seen as children. We are seen as adults. And that's why when Doughboy was arrested initially, right, he's treated so harshly because he is not seen as a child. He is seen as a grown man. And I think that is where the system is broken. That is why Doughboy falls down this path, because a small incident that might have affected a Chad, for example, he would have got like a slap on the wrist. Don't do that again. Community service. But Doughboy's life was changed entirely because of one bad decision. Because like I said, we were never viewed as children. We were viewed as men and women, regardless of where we were in our developmental period. Whether we were 5 or 15, we were always viewed as men and women, grown. And I think that is where you see the breakdown in Tre. It's like he finally gets to let that that wasn't just some tears. That was a sob from the gut. Like all that pain from years just finally boiled over. And he had to let it out. And I'm glad he let it out with Brandy. Cause I don't think Tre ever felt comfortable crying in front of Ricky and Doughboy or Furious. Cause he always had to be tough. He was raised to be tough to survive South Central. And now he finally felt free enough to let it out. And I think that's what he truly needed.
It's hard to be a saint in South Central LA.
I don't understand why you insist on learning things the hard way, Tre, but you gonna learn.
Well, I think I want to start bringing it home here. And so just kind of to close things out as we usually do, just kind of go around here and just ask, like, would you guys recommend this?
Absolutely. I think this movie is like 100% important to the conversation of just like Black oppression and like the opportunity to make it out of that oppression. And so yeah, like if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend watching it. It is definitely a very like empowering movie for sure.
I most definitely would recommend it. And I would tell people, show it to your child when they're young and then show it to them again when they're older. Because it will change. It's like a course, not even a course correct, but it's kind of like here's the circumstances. Now look at the circumstances through an older lens. Like I always tell people, watch it at different stages in your life, because no matter of the different stages of your life, it still rings true. No matter if you're 10 looking at a dead body, you want to go see a dead body, to 15 to 18 to 20 years old, because in the, like I said, in the title, it's not men in the hood. It's boys, because deep down they're 15, 16, 17, however old they are, but they're still children. They're still operating like children because of what I said before, that stunted growth. So I always tell people, watch the movie numerous times in your life. I want to show it to, like, I'm a teacher. I want to show it to my kids, but next thing you know, I'll be on the 6 o'clock news because I get fired. So,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna do that. But I would tell people, watch it. Watch it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, I can't break it down any more than the rest of you guys have. This was basically it's like Stephen King's Stand By Me in South Central LA.
Yeah. Literally, like they even have like the train track scene.
Yep. It's the train track scene and like this is Stand By Me in South Central LA. So yeah. So if you like the Goodfellas and all that, like this should be okay in your catalog too, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it's absolutely a recommendation. Just like even outside of its commentary, which is important, and I don't want to downplay that at all, but I think specifically he's talking about this movie within the context of just like film and the impact it's had on the medium. This feels like such a, again, like a source work, like a foundational work, like so much I feel like pulls from this. And I think it's always really important to seek out those foundational works because they inform everything that you see after that, and it's just fun. I like pattern recognition, and I like being like, oh, they're pulling from this, they're pulling from that, oh, that's a reference to that, oh, this feels like an homage to that. And especially as like aspiring and emerging, creators and artists, having that, Rolodex of references is really useful, because then when you're talking with people and you're like, oh, it's like this meets that, and it's like, oh, we want to do this scene like that, and we want to do it like that, and yeah, it's an absolute recommendation just purely on that basis alone, but also just because of the empathy and the heart that it has for its world.
It was a game changer for sure. Game changer.
Watch out, mother.
On that note, I want to thank all of my panelists for being here. I really appreciate your perspective and you guys taking the time. And to my wonderful audience, once again, thank you all very much for watching. I love you all, and good night.